Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. Monday Night Raw from November 14th, 2022 is in the books. So we're going to talk about the show. We kind of light on news and notes this week, but there's two things I guess we could discuss. The first being that apparently pro wrestlers do very well on Cameo. And the second is this apparent video that's been floating around of Stone Cold Steve Austin getting in the ring. And people are wondering who Stone Cold Steve Austin should wrestle. And there was an idea that people seem to genuinely like that I don't. So we're going to talk about that. So let's get into it. All right, so this is going to be pretty quick. Apparently, pro wrestlers are some of the most popular athletes on Cameo. A study carried out by gambling website betting.com. This comes from Post Wrestling, by the way. The top earner on Cameo among sports personalities was Mick Foley, with an estimated total earnings of $525,000. That's insane. But this must be like his full-time job right now. But if he's making $500,000 just, giving people 10 to 15 second greetings and stuff like that, I guarantee you he probably wished Cameo existed in 1993 when he was blowing himself up and losing his teeth. I mean, could you imagine he gets paid more now in his old age to sit and talk to his fans via television that he ever made blowing himself up in Japan? Guarantee you he ain't make $500,000 in Japan. All right. So it says Cameo allows fans to purchase customized video messages from celebrities. Of course, this is all an estimation, so this could be false. We don't know. But it says the analysis was based on a number of views that a sports personality received and their listed price per message on Cameo. The earnings figures quoted are therefore not an exact science, but if anything, may be underestimated. So Bret Favre apparently was second, but Bret Hart was fourth with an estimated earnings of $212,000. In ninth place was Matt Hardy with an estimated earnings of $94,000. That's just enough for him to go and have more kids. The 10th spot went to Danhausen with an estimated haul of $89,000, which is probably worth more than his AEW contract. And probably the only reason he's on AEW is to boost his Cameo price. So he really doesn't serve any other purpose. There's other WWE wrestlers on there, but apparently they did not rank them. But I didn't look at the site for myself, so let's do that right now. Let's look at the site and see what's happening, y'all. So to add a little bit more color to it, I went to the website to look at the actual numbers. And it's in British pounds, so Jesus H. Christ, I don't know. I know that there's somebody who is on this channel that comes from England somewhere who can be able to translate some of these numbers. But Mick Foley is, of course, number one. His cost per message is £105. He has 4,224 reviews for an estimated earnings of £443,520. Bret the Hitman Hart, his cost per message is $126. Oh, I'm sorry, not £126. He has 1,420 reviews for an estimated earnings of £178,920, which I'm guessing is this is the conversion. So I already read the conversion. So what am I talking about? It took me a while to think about that. I was like, wait a minute, didn't we just go through the conversion already? Anyway, earning over £440,000 to date, the former wrestler, this being Mick Foley, has received 4,224 reviews, which is the most amount of all the athletes analyzed, while maintaining an average rating of 5 stars. Interesting. Very cool. Wrestling superstars are making the most on Cameo, earning almost £200,000 more than any other sport. By calculating how much money different athletes make, we were able to determine the average cost per video message and the total earnings of each sport, as well as the average earning. So wrestling is number one, which is almost triple the NFL. So the number of reviews, well, it's probably not true. It's probably a little bit over double. So the average number of reviews for pro wrestling, 15,256. For the second highest, I think it would be the NFL. But actually, it's actually Major League Baseball with 6,689. The NFL with 5,954. The cost per message, the average cost in wrestling is $47. I'm talking 47 pounds, 46 pence. Is that how that goes? And for the NFL, it is 111 pounds or 61 pence. And for Major League Baseball, it's 80 pounds solid. The total estimated earnings of pro wrestling is 1,111,712 pounds, while the estimated earnings of the NFL players on Cameo was 913,280 pounds. For Major League Baseball's 563,872 pounds. The estimated earnings of the NFL players, 27,675 pounds. While the Major League Baseball, 19,443 pounds. All right, so they're doing very well. That's very interesting. That's some interesting stuff right there. I don't see anything else in here when it comes to pro wrestling, looking at the actual site itself. But nice little chunk of income for, you know, older wrestlers. And a lot of that stuff is, of course, going to be dictated by how much it costs. And if you have a reasonable cost and you're reasonably well liked, I can definitely see why you get more reviews. You get more attention, rather. Bret Hart charging more than Mick Foley. And, you know, the crazy thing is, wrestlers today, the people who are currently on television, they have obscenely high rates on Cameo. I think seen somebody said that Alexa Bliss charged like $300. Let's take a look. All right, so I looked, and Alexa Bliss no longer does Cameo videos. So the closest I think I could find was Shayna Baszler, which is book a personalized video for $70. That's fine. It's still too much, but it's, well, okay, we got Happy Corbin here is $200 plus. Carmella is also $200. Ciampa's $150. So there's quite a few, like, average for like people who are active on the roster is a lot more than people who are retired. Liv Morgan, $380 on Cameo. So this stuff, of course, is cost prohibitive. In other words, you have to really be a super fan to pay Liv Morgan almost $400 for a Cameo. So she's not going to get as many looks as Mick Foley. So they're just kind of cashing in on their current celebrity. But it's also a situation where if Liv Morgan was to do a Cameo for $70, she'd get swamped. I mean, her fan base would just eat her alive. So you have to raise the cost to, you know, so only people who are really, really dedicated and really, really serious actually want to book that kind of money. But I can't, almost $400 for a message from Liv Morgan. Christ, Jiminy Christ on toast. What the hell? You must really like Liv Morgan. Or whoever's going to get that message must really like Liv Morgan. And you must be rich. Again, cost prohibitive. To be quite honest, I really am, going down this rabbit hole made me kind of ask the question, how much does the wrestler pay WWE for the licensing of the intellectual property? So Liv Morgan charges $380. How much does WWE get from that? So the average rate for an agent is between 15 to 20%. So that would be less than $100. But I wouldn't know that, because I don't know, like, I would imagine that's individualized too. Like, each individual wrestler has different contracts because they're not unionized. It's probably not a flat fee for everybody. So it might be more for some people, more for others. But ultimately, I'm very interested in that. You know, how much do they have to kick over to WWE in their cameos and various other outside ventures? Who knows? But that's enough about that. Let's talk about this Steve Austin video. People saw Stone Cold Steve Austin in the gym training, working out, and everyone starts talking about, Stone Cold Steve Austin, man, who's he going to wrestle at WrestleMania? So a lot of people were pitching like these various ideas for Stone Cold Steve Austin to wrestle at WrestleMania. A lot of people have said that John Cena will be wrestling at WrestleMania. So naturally they say, you got to have Cena versus Austin. You got to do that. And I said, okay, who wins? Okay, so who's going to win? You have to beat somebody. Who's going to win? If Stone Cold Steve Austin beats John Cena, what does that mean for John Cena? Oh, John Cena, he's untouchable, except for to all the people he just lost to Roman Reigns. And a lot of people were just kind of like, what? What? I mean, it was the right decision because, of course, Roman's going to go forward. Cena's on the decline. So you're going to piss off a lot of people, jobbing John Cena to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Or you're going to do the opposite. You're going to piss off all the 40-year-old Attitude Era fans because John Cena beat The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. No, you just don't do it. Sometimes, like, I know it sounds good on paper, and maybe it'll sound good in the arena, but sometimes just because something is enticing, you get no benefit out of it. There is more benefit if you're going to have Cena and Austin, let's say, hypothetically. You get more out of putting them in separate matches than you do putting them in one match. Okay, and I feel the same way when it comes to The Rock and Roman Reigns, stuff. Because I assumed if The Rock wrestles Roman Reigns is going to win that match. That's my assumption. Why the fuck would he lose? You have to consider what you're doing to the current generation if you keep having these old guys, especially guys like Steve Austin, who are basically retired, come out of nowhere and beat them. So they have to lose. If you're going to bring them in, they have to lose. So you could easily pivot John Cena versus somebody else. I've seen a lot of people say, it's Austin Theory. After Austin, he's not ready yet. He can't wrestle Roman Reigns. But he can wrestle John Cena? Are you people crazy? He's not ready yet. We're going to talk about that later. Anyway, you got that. If that's what you wanted to do. It makes sense. If Cena was to win that match, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It would be a great rub for Austin Theory to even be in the ring with John Cena. Or if he was to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin, he's already been in the ring with Steve Austin. Apparently, he's not ready after doing that. But Stone Cold Steve Austin can wrestle somebody else. Him beating Kevin Owens didn't bother Kevin Owens, didn't bother the Kevin Owens fan base. They were happy he was just in the ring. But you can't do that with John Cena because the people don't look at John Cena as being some guy who should just be happy to be there. They looking at John Cena as a guy who is on Steve Austin's level. He is on the Pantheon. He is on the Mount Rushmore with Stone Cold Steve Austin. He should not be doing jobs to Steve Austin. And this is why, the Hogan-Austin match never happened. Who's going to do the job? Hogan's not going to be to do the job. Why should he? He's fucking Hulk Hogan. Why should Steve Austin do the job? He's fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin. So you better off putting them in separate matches. Now, they still did it wrong because they put Steve in the match with Scott Hall, and he wasn't the Scott Hall we all know and love. He was something else. If he had had a match with the Scott Hall of like 96, that match would have ruled. But it was the Scott Hall of 2002 or whatever year it was. So it wasn't the same. While Hulk Hogan lost to The Rock. Now, Hulk Hogan did lose to The Rock. But it was a pivot. It was a way to kill off that NWO Hulk Hogan. That's the only reason why it worked. The red and yellow Hulkamania, that shit wasn't going to work. That shit wasn't going to fly. Now, it may have worked a little bit later. Like when Hulk lost to Kurt Angle. Around that time, you could have did Austin and Hogan. You probably could have got Hogan to do the job. But not really. Hogan is smart enough to choose his jobs, too. At least back in those times, and he did not want to lose to anybody else he could consider or conceivably surpass him. He didn't mind passing the torch as long as he kind of knew that he was always going to be Hulk Hogan. So that's why he was able to do the job for Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle and be relatively safe. But he was very wary of doing jobs for, Shawn Michaels or, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, wait a minute. Isn't it odd that a happy politic like Stone Cold Steve Austin did a clean job, submission job for Kurt Angle, but didn't want to do a job for Stone Cold Steve Austin? Didn't want to do one for Shawn Michaels. Didn't want to do one for Randy Orton, but didn't have a problem doing it for Brock Lesnar. Interesting, right? So sometimes you just don't do it. I know that it sounds good to do Stone Cold Steve Austin versus John Cena, but you don't get that much benefit out of it. It's a big marquee match, but you're going to piss some people off. And either you're going to piss off all the 20-year-olds who are still watching it because John Cena is the GOAT to them. And they grew up watching them. And they're just kind of like, man, they just obsessed with the Attitude Era. Or you piss off all the 40-year-old guys because, oh my God, Stone Cold Steve Austin lost to Fruity Pebbles John Cena. So you just put them in separate matches. Or you put them in a tag match and you put them on the same side and they can win. And it won't matter that much. So I wouldn't do that. Instead, I would find separate opponents for each guy. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I mean, there's got to be a guy on the roster somewhere that he can kick and stunner and call it a day. And same thing for John Cena. Got to be somebody he can, hit this big move on. Big FU, big attitude adjustment, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And then we send everybody home happy with John Cena that wrestled at WrestleMania. But the one match you kind of have to have is Rock and Roman. If you're going to pull any Attitude Era guy or Ruthless Aggression Era guy from the Mist, it's got to be The Rock because you have to do the head of the table thing with him and Roman. And I think you have to close the door on the Roman Reigns character. Now, if the Roman was to lose to The Rock, that would kill his gimmick and would basically put a lid on this entire generation. Like, oh, Roman was running roughshod over everybody. Nobody was ready to face Roman Reigns. But, The Rock can jump off his couch and beat him. No, that's not the message you want to send. You always want to send the message that the business is moving forward. So, because if you keep sending the message that the business is still stuck in 2007 or still stuck in 98, you're never going to go anywhere. So you always want to consistently have the business moving forward to a degree, of course. You can't have, I know a lot of people, Bray Wyatt should beat The Undertaker. Like, nah, you don't do that. You don't do that. You don't do that. Because Undertaker was still an entity at the time where he was still going forward. He was still moving forward. He was still dragging other people forward. It was a position that Kevin Owens was in when he lost to Steve Austin. It was about, giving the young boys some credibility, giving them the rub. That's what it was about. And you can do that without beating them. But you can't do that when you have two titans in the ring and nobody needs the rub. Because also nobody needs to win. But neither one of them should be losing, So you're in that type of rarefied air when you're dealing with like legends and shit. That being said, if you wanted to have Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestle somebody from the Ruthless Generation era, I mean, Edge is right there. Edge has never wrestled a match against Stone Cold Steve Austin. He can do a job. Edge is not on that level. Edge is not on the level of Cena and, so nobody is. So we're good. Edge can catch a stunner. Plus he has a neck problem. Austin has a neck problem. They'll probably work safe as hell against each other. That's one option. Randy Orton is another one. If he ever comes back, he's another safe option. He's very safe in the ring. He's somebody that is a high level star from the Ruthless Aggression era, but it's not like, hey, you're killing my childhood if you beat Randy Orton. So if Steve Austin has wrestled somebody from that era, you got Steve Austin, you got Edge, and you got Randy Orton. Now, would you be stupid and say, oh, we're finally going to have our Stone Cold Brock Lesnar match? No. For starters, Brock is not safe to work with. One German suplex and Austin is going to be really regretting getting back in the ring. Also, Brock has to win. So, because Brock would greatly benefit from beating Steve Austin. Whereas Steve Austin doesn't really benefit that much from beating Brock Lesnar. But it would be a nice little bookend to finally close that chapter of Steve Austin finally getting in the ring with Brock. And that match would be all of 4 minutes anyway. It'd be 100. It'd be like, it'd be like something the atmosphere for that would be nuts. Like, the atmosphere for that would be crazy. But you're in a situation where, hey, if Brock does the job for Steve Austin, you fucked an entire generation of people. You just have, and you don't want to do that, because Brock has also been running roughshod over everybody recently. And same thing with Roman Reigns. You don't want to put Roman Reigns in there with Austin for the same reason. So you got to put him in there with somebody who's upper mid card. You could put him in there with like a Seth Rollins, and have him beat Seth Rollins. That wouldn't hurt Seth at all. Wouldn't be much of a problem. You could put him in there with, there's various people you could have put him in there with, but there's just certain guys where they have their institution, they have legacy. You don't want to see those guys, especially since it's going to be one of the last few matches that they have, going down and getting pinned and shit. You don't want that. All right, so is there anything else I need to discuss? Oh, yes. This shitty thing that I saw, that Vince McMahon was going to bury Gunther after Raw of July the 4th. And I clicked it because I wanted to see where it came from. I saw WrestleVotes and was like, you know what? Hit that little X box on the side. I don't need to see anymore. I don't care what WrestleVotes, quote unquote, has to say. Who the fuck is WrestleVotes? Source is right out of my ass, bro. Why do people just do this stuff? Oh, Vince was going to kill this guy's gimmick. Vince hates this guy. It's like, he's literally the Donald Trump of the wrestling media, where the guy's been gone for 3 months already, and people are still talking about what Vince would have done with X talent or Y talent, but he was prevented from doing it because reasons. Like, he's the fucking boss. He can do whatever he wants with whoever he wants in the fucking company. He chose not to do that. What was the... But my question is, like, what did you can look at and say that he was going to bury Gunther? I saw some people say, well, he was doing that thing when he was chopping Ludwig. And I was like, and that was supposed to bury Gunther? Like, no, that wasn't burying. That was, if anything, it was showing that he was sort of a taskmaster. That, he was a very strict, failure is not tolerated type of character, which makes sense. If you have somebody with the look and the imposing appeal of Gunther, why would he hang around losers? Why wouldn't he chastise, people around him? Okay, maybe it was extreme with the chops, but they also want to emphasize his chops. So having Ludwig be the one that puts him over when he has no opponent is kind of the right thing to do. But what else? It's not like he was out there dancing a jig or anything like that. Where did this stuff come from? It's literally people pulling shit out of their ass. And it's one of those things that is guaranteed to get hits, even from people like me who know better. Because I'm looking like, okay, I wondered who said this. Because there's so many people, like Bruce Pritchard has a podcast and Road Dogg has a podcast, and everybody says some stupid shit from time to time. So I'm just looking like, man, what dummy opened his mouth and said some shit like this? And then I see it as like WrestleVotes. And I'm like, oh, get the fuck out of here. Why are we treating WrestleVotes like they anyway legitimate? Who the fuck is WrestleVotes? Like, literally, who are they? Like, what inside information, what stories have they broke? I don't get it. WrestleVotes is not a person. It's an organization. What individual is saying this? Like the Mad Men podcast guy who keeps talking about Raw being TV 14. I guess if you say it enough, it eventually will happen and you'll say you were right. But let's get into Monday Night Raw. Okay. So Seth Rollins, he comes out, cuts a promo, talked about his open challenge, and that now he's got challengers coming out of the woodwork. The crowd busts into a "that was stupid" chant in terms of Austin Theory cashing in the Money in the Bank for the U.S. title. Seth Rollins says save it for when he comes out here. He talks about the U.S. title being the top prize for Monday nights. He was interrupted by Lashley, who said he turned Selfie Boy into a punchline, and that the beating he gave Seth Rollins is going to happen every week until he gets his title back. Mustafa Ali came out there. Him and Lashley got into a fight. They bickered back and forth until Lashley said that he was going to whoop that ass. So then the match occurred. Lashley whooped that ass. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. I like that they're trying with Seth Rollins to elevate the U.S. title, but again, it's the title that it's the man that makes the title, not the title that makes the man. Seth Rollins is good enough to main event Raw, whether he had that belt or 24/7 title. So, it's Seth Rollins that's the main event, not exactly the U.S. title. But it's a nice little Jedi mind trick that they're trying to get people to believe that the U.S. title has increased in value. That is good enough to use your money in the bank on. You got this winning lottery ticket, and oh no, I dropped it in the toilet. That's okay. My next paycheck is just as good. Anyway, it was fine. I don't care about Mustafa Ali. I don't think anybody does. He struggles to get absolutely any reaction whatsoever. Later on, Austin Theory cuts the promo to explain himself. He's going to explain why he decided to make the decision that he made. And it's basically, these guys looked at Twitter and decided to come up with the excuse I saw all over Twitter right after it happened. Nobody understands the pressure that Austin Theory is under, and that he was talking about being the next big thing, and he's outgrown all of this stuff, and everyone wants to see him fail, but he didn't fail. He feels more alive than ever, and that the Money in the Bank was an anchor around his ankles, and that there was no scenario in which he could cash in which the Usos or the Bloodline was not going to be there to stop him. Roman Reigns was untouchable. So he decided to cash in on the next best thing, which was the United States Championship. And I just looked at that shit. I shook my head, man. And the crazy thing is how many people are so gullible that they bought into it. But mostly, a lot of people gave him a lot of credit for the promo, which, okay, give him credit for the promo, but he already had that talent. It's not like this character change brought this out. He could already cut these promos. He could have cut this promo with the briefcase. There is no need for them to fuck him in that way. All right. And here's the crazy thing. Now, in storyline, because I want to analyze things within the time of the story before we talking about the stuff outside of it. Within the storyline, Austin Theory sees that, hey, the Usos are always there, or somebody is always there to protect Roman Reigns. This is getting frustrating. It's getting kind of silly. All right. But you got 8 months to figure it out. Right? You got 8 months to figure it out. You don't have to, nobody has a gun to your head right now and says you have to cash it in right now. You've got 8 months. 8 months. You mean to tell me that you couldn't figure out how to cash it in on Roman Reigns and you got 8 months? 8 months. He's not ready yet. He never should have won Money in the Bank in the first place. What are you talking about? He had 8 months. It literally makes no sense for a guy who has 8 months to plot, to plan, to wait in the wings, to become the world. He's got a winning lottery ticket. And for him to throw it away. And he's got 8 months left on that contract. What? And again, let's take it outside the ring for a little bit. Would Triple H have done what he did to Austin Theory? Would he have done that to Kevin Owens? Would he have done that to Johnny Gargano? Would he have done that to one of his girls? Would he have done it to Charlotte? Would he have done it to Sasha Banks? No, he wouldn't have done no shit like that. He wouldn't have had them cash in to become a tag team champion or nothing stupid like that. Of course he wouldn't have done that. The idea is I'm supposed to be stupid and just accept what they're telling me. It's Triple H speaking through Austin Theory and Corey Graves telling me how, oh, this is a very smart decision. He didn't really need the money in the bank anyway. I'm like, okay, so then why does anybody want the money in the bank? If he doesn't need it, why does anyone need it? Why do we have it at all, period, anyway? Let's just get rid of it. If nobody actually needs it, I cannot believe someone says, oh, it was an ankle around my ankle anyway. Oh, yeah, that briefcase that I almost tore my MCL getting, I didn't need that thing. I can now not challenge for the world title. And if I do, I can only challenge in a match which there is guaranteed to be tons of rules in which the bloodline will definitely interfere. Instead of, well, there's a War Games match happening. All of them are going to get their asses kicked. Could have cashed in there. Like, I'm not thinking about that, though. I'm not supposed to think about that. You're not supposed to say anything about that. This is literally stupid. And they're trying to justify stupid. And other people are just kind of like, yes, Triple H. They're just clapping like seals. Yes, you're right, Triple H. This was a perfect decision. He never should have been wanting the money in the bank. Like, okay, well, if not him, then who? And then which case is the bloodline not there? Okay, is the bloodline not going to be there for the Royal Rumble winner? Is the Royal Rumble winner just going to say, fuck it? I can't beat them. It's 5 of them. I can't win. Is the Royal Rumble winner all of a sudden going to be like, I give up. I quit. I'm not going to use my Royal Rumble cash in. There's no way for me to win. It's stupid. And it's the kind of stupid that doesn't even work with him being a heel. That's the worst thing about it. If it was the kind of, villains are a cowardly and superstitious lot, if it was along those lines, then he definitely would have waited in the shadows, because he definitely wouldn't. He would have been ambitious enough to wait and to try to make it work. There definitely will be opportunities between now and fucking July where he could have cashed in and at least lost. It's not even the fact that he lost. It's that he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase on the fucking U.S. title and still lost. None of this makes any sense. And it still doesn't make any sense even after the explanation. Because now, if you didn't think about it, he's like, yeah, he did a good job. That was smart. Triple H, you did a thumbs up, bro. But me, I'm like, he had 8 months on that deal. 8 months. What's the rush? What is the rush? No response. Everybody's supposed to be like, oh, Triple H made it. He made everything good now. See, Austin Theory's better now. He's got less personality than he had before. He doesn't do the selfie stick anymore, guys. He's grown a beard, guys. Great character development. He grew a beard. What? He grew a beard. He's mean now. Like, oh, he didn't start his Raw career recently just jumping random baby faces like Finn Balor from behind and beating them up. No, he didn't do that. What? That's all he's been doing for like the first fucking 3 or 4 months that he was in the company. Well, during this incarnation of his run on Monday Night Raw. All he's been doing is beating people up. So now he beat people up and all of a sudden it's better than the last time he was beating up the same people? Oh, he did more moves. I literally saw somebody say that on Twitter. He did more moves tonight. Moves that he didn't do since he was in Evolve. Like, oh, okay, so that's the winning scenario. Strip him of his personality, turn him into a work rate guy. He has a 15-minute match with Dolph fucking Ziggler that he still lost. But because he hit him with a chair, he's mean and vicious. He's definitely better than the last time. No, it's stupid. This is stupid. And people are being absolutely gullible. He's been doing this stuff. He's been the vicious heel already. He's been beating people with the briefcase. He's been bopping people across the head with the briefcase. He's been doing all this shit already. Triple H literally did nothing but give him his first name back and took him out of the ring to give him a beard and gave him a fucking losing streak. Oh yeah, he fixed him. He fixed it. By God, maybe we ought to send Kevin Owens on that losing streak. Let's see how Triple H fixes him too. He's never going to do that though. So this was stupid. And I would have to be stupid to believe it and to buy into it. Austin Theory has a fucking 15-minute match with Dolph Ziggler that people went to sleep on, for most of it anyway. Of course, you get the match lasts long enough for it to get over eventually. And a match he clearly has won, and he got disqualified on purpose because he has to prove a point. Sure. Anyway, let's move on. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. So, earlier in the night, AJ Styles cuts a promo with the OC where AJ Styles challenged Finn Balor to a match at Survivor Series, saying it's going to be the end of his beef with Judgment Day that he's been going on since WrestleMania when Edge asked him to join Judgment Day and he refused. They also gave this nickname to Mia Yim called Mi Chin, which is telling me that's probably what's going to be her name. They're probably going to change her name to Mi Chin, and what they're going to get people to warm up to it first before they do the official name change. In any event, Mi Chin or Mia Yim defeated Tamina. Damage Control was watching this match. They seemingly were the only people watching this match as the crowd started chanting "Bask in His Glory," which is the Keith Lee chant, and not paying much attention. But then again, I guess they weren't the only ones, because Rhea Ripley was also watching the match from ringside. Mia Yim wanted her to get into the ring to fight her, but Rhea Ripley thought the better of it, went the other way. So Damage Control backstage talked about Mia Yim, said that, we're a lot alike, you and I. How could a talent like yours sit on the bench for so long? You're just like us. Maybe you should join our team. To which Mia Yim said, well, I got no problems with Bianca and her team, but I'll think about it. They were then interrupted by the OC, who apparently got kegs of beer or some such foolery. Now that they're on TV, I got no idea why they're here. Whatever. So later in the night, Dana Brooke is very upset that Nikki Cross threw her 24/7 title on the floor, even though they kept saying it was in the garbage. She missed the garbage, and that the 24/7 title represented all of her hard work, and she busts her ass week in and week out, and she's not going to take this level of disrespect. She's not going to let people disrespect her by throwing a meaningless belt on the ground. Look, I get it. And I think she cut this promo with a lot of conviction. I think if she actually had something to say, Dana Brooke might actually be a decent promo. But I think that this is what makes this promo probably one of the better ones that she's ever done, is the fact that she actually means this. It's something that she's been tweeting about for several weeks. Pretty much every time she gets dissed or something like that, she has this same attitude about how hard she works for everybody, and she's not going to take this disrespect. But she did get disrespected by Seth Rollins a couple of weeks ago, and she got disrespected last week, and maybe that's kind of going to be the new gimmick for Dana Brooke. She's going to take offense to things and try to make things right. But she has a match with Io Sky. She loses, of course. That makes sense. The match was not fast enough for me. Anyway, Mia Yim came out and said that the Damage Control was right. War Games is a fight where everybody needs to pick a side, and she picked her side. And Bianca and all of them came out to show that Mia Yim is on the side of Bianca Belair and Asuka and Alexa Bliss. Okay, fine. At that point, Rhea Ripley goes to Damage Control and volunteers to join their team, since Mia Yim is on the opposite team. That's all fine and dandy. Bianca says that they look good as a 4-person group, but they can't wait till they add their 5. And apparently there's going to be, I thought it was going to be a series of matches, but it's apparently going to be a match, like one match next week, to decide who's going to get the person advantage. And I'm just saying, like, hey, what happened to the coin toss? You just go back to doing coin tosses and not just hanging pointless losses on people. But it'll probably be Dakota Kai getting pinned anyway, or winning the match anyway, which is stupid because the heels shall always have the advantage. So I'm guessing Bayley is probably going to beat like Alexa Bliss or something. All right, so that's all fine. But it leads into the United States title match because Finn Balor is there. Finn Balor was challenged to a match by AJ Styles earlier in the night. Finn Balor then accepts the challenge and says he's got some unfinished business with Seth Rollins. going to remind him how good he is. They have a pretty good match that ends with a lot of chicanery because the goddamn OC is out there. The OC is out there. They fighting Judgment Day outside the ring. AJ Styles shoves Finn Balor off the top rope. Then Seth Rollins, of course, wins the match with the stomp. After the match, Theory attacks Rollins from behind, punching him in the head quite a bit. Hit him in the head with the United States title and posed with it. Now we're supposed to believe that, of course, Austin Theory is a new person. I've already been down this road. Let's not revisit that. So Finn Balor, once again, who has been jobbed out of titles more than Finn Balor? Like, in the company, who has been through acts of villainy and or acts of God been jobbed out of more championships than Finn Balor? I mean, for Christ's sake, he's always so close, and then random things happen. People pushing him off the top rope. Just wild shit occurring. But I knew Finn Balor wasn't going to win this title. Of course, you could basically ask the question, why would AJ Styles screw himself out of a United States Championship match? Because essentially that's what it would have been if he would have let Finn Balor win. But I guess it was more important that Finn Balor lose. So, but the match itself was very good, which was to be expected between Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. I mean, these two guys work very well together. The Triple H era is just to, again, longer matches. You know, I mean, not so much on the build up for these long ass matches, but longer matches. So this match got a lot of time, and then with that lot of time, they decided to throw a lot of gaga in there at the end, where, you know, a bunch of run-ins and all that kind of stuff. It was still okay. I'm not shitting on it. It just was what it was. In terms of, if you could have saw this coming, you wouldn't have been surprised to see what was going to happen. That, you know, the OC and the Judgment Day were going to fight outside the ring and probably cost Finn Balor the match, and that's exactly what happened. It is what it is. Okay, to sort of put a nice little bow on the Judgment Day stuff, Shelton Benjamin was backstage. He supposedly had an opinion on Austin Theory losing his Money in the Bank briefcase, but he was interrupted by Dominic Mysterio calling him a failure, saying that he was a failure back when his dad and Eddie were in their primes, and since he's better than them, he's also better than Shelton. Shelton called him a boy, said he ain't got no time for his foolishness, to which Damian Priest got in the face of Shelton Benjamin. They had some words, with Dominic being the irritant over Damian Priest's shoulders. I really like this. I really like Dominic. He's kind of starting to warm up to me. So he's yelling at, well, he's not quite yelling. I shouldn't say that. He's adding emphasis to Damian Priest as Damian Priest talks to Shelton Benjamin. So Shelton Benjamin accepts the match, but only when the match is against Dominic. So Dominic has to wrestle Shelton Benjamin. And the match is actually fairly solid. I mean, Shelton Benjamin is still, even though he's in his 40s, he's still, you know, a pretty good worker. Dominic Mysterio wins with some help from the Judgment Day. It was fine, I guess. Dominic is starting to grow on me as a personality because, you know, he's really finding his groove and he's getting confident with his heel role, but he's not necessarily a great in-ring wrestler. And for people who care so much about the in-ring stuff, I'm sorry to say that he's just not nailing it in that realm, but he is still pretty damn good at being an irritating heel and getting heat. You know, Dominic is growing on me. Personality is everything. I think once he eventually just abandons the lucha libre stuff because he's not really all that good at it and wrestles a more traditional pro wrestling style, it'll probably be better off for him. Just because his dad is a luchador doesn't mean he has to be. He can adopt certain luchador things that he's good at, but he probably needs to just just dump it. Just dump being a luchador, man. Just forget it. You don't look good doing the head scissors. It's not smooth or anything like that. So just forget it. Do what you know how to do well. Just work on that. So Judgment Day had a hell of a night. They're still all over this show. I don't hate them, but it's becoming pretty repetitive. All they do is really start fights and get into fights. That's about it. All right, so Riddle is backstage with some bongos. I'm tired of this. He talks about being in a band with Elias, that they'll be rock stars. Chad Gable interrupts. They shoosh, bongos, shoosh, bongos, shoosh, bongos. Then they go out there and they have a pretty good match that was probably too long. Matt Riddle versus Chad Gable. Chad Gable wins with some help from Otis. So Matt Riddle and Elias are apparently going to be a tag team. Now this is, of course, also teased a little bit later when Chad Gable brags about Otis beating Elias and him beating Riddle, and what would happen if they was to form a team to face them, and how the Alpha Academy would just take that win on a silver platter. This, of course, led to Seth Rollins coming in there being silly. But they're teasing Matt Riddle. After Matt Riddle had this very serious run where he was tough MMA guy in a blood feud with Seth Rollins, now he's regressed back to what up, bro? Weed jokes and bongos. I thought we were doing character progression. Like, we supposed to be... Why is Riddle in a tag team with Elias? Why? Why don't we have anything for Riddle to do? I know that Riddle just feuded with Seth Rollins. I know that. And now you're trying to get Seth Rollins to be the top babyface. I get that too. But Riddle falling off of a cliff to be feuding with fucking Chad Gable and Otis. It's like, are you serious? To be tied up in all this Elias garbage? Look, I knew this old Elias thing wasn't going to work out when he did it. Elias had run his course. And now Triple H doesn't know how to book Elias, but we've got Elias. So now he's going to be in a band with Riddle. And for some reason, they're never on TV together anymore. They don't do band shit. And I don't even understand why Riddle is in a band anyway. He was just choking the guy who now proclaimed himself the top champion on the brand. You just choked that guy out, didn't you? You just tapped him out, right? Never mind. Can't question Triple H. Apparently Riddle ain't ready yet either. Whenever you're not getting the push, you ain't ready yet. But you know who is ready? You know who gets a lot of ring time? Akira Tozawa. Apparently, Akira Tozawa is very ready. Because he got 4 fucking segments on this show. So, Corbin and JBL are playing poker. Now, this was actually fun. I like this part because JBL is funny. They're playing with some random dude. And that random dude, don't know who he is, don't care. But JBL was offered some Kentucky bourbon, to which he says he don't want anything from these banjo-picking Kentucky idiots, which is excellent. Gets tons of heat. He turns around and there's Akira Tozawa wearing sunglasses for some reason. He says that he wants to play, but he doesn't know the rules. And he doesn't know how to play. JBL says he's a sucker. This is going to be great. So he sits down, of course, to play with Akira Tozawa. Later in the show, Tozawa is actually winning. He's won 12 straight hands of poker, but JBL and Baron Corbin don't want him to leave. They don't want him to go anywhere until they win their money back. Now, at this point, he's about to win hand number 13. Then Baron Corbin decides to cheat. He lies about what's in his hand. Akira Tozawa catches him, then challenges him to a match, then slaps him in the face, because why not? That's a good way to make your big, strong heel look like a tough guy, to get slapped in the face by a Japanese midget. Then Baron Corbin has the fight of his life against Akira Tozawa, in which he went out there and absolutely took more bumps for Akira Tozawa. You would think Akira Tozawa was fucking Roman Reigns, the way Corbin went out there and bumped for him. It was ridiculous. Honestly and truly, he's still wearing, by Akira Tozawa, he's still wearing the ninja outfit from 2 years ago when he was a ninja during the pandemic because they were doing silly backstage gimmicks. Tozawa is still dressed like a ninja. That's still his gimmick. And now he's a poker player. I don't get it, man. But Baron Corbin at least won. And he won with the end of days after Akira Tozawa jumped off the top rope. He caught him. So I guess at least Baron Corbin won. This Corbin JBL thing is working out great for JBL. Not working out very well for for Baron Corbin, who is absolutely just getting overlooked in this whole ordeal. But yeah, well, what can I say? Yeah, what can I say? But I genuinely do like JBL. He's been doing very good. All right, so a lengthy segment was dedicated to The Miz, which is, it's a mixed bag because Johnny Gargano was also there. So The Miz comes out wearing this sweater, and it is obnoxious. He's got this obnoxious haircut. He looks like somebody's old creepy uncle. He got the Vince McMahon glasses on the bridge of his nose, and he's being interviewed, even though it's Miz TV. He's being interviewed by Byron Saxton. He claimed that he regrets paying Dexter Lumis, and that the only thing he wanted was some empathy. He's been in this business for 18 years. He's never gotten cheered. The fans don't like him. And even when he gets injured, he still finds a way to show up. And fans don't appreciate him. That's all he wanted, was a little appreciation. So, yes, he paid Dexter Lumis. But Dexter Lumis got greedy, and he had to end it. It had to end. So, and when it came to the video that Johnny Gargano supposedly recorded, he told that executive exactly what she wanted to hear. That Hollywood isn't like podunk towns like Louisville, Kentucky. They don't want to hear the truth. The truth doesn't sell in Hollywood. So he told her whatever she wanted to hear. And which is a great line, by the way. The truth doesn't work in Hollywood. It's some great shit, really. It's top tier shit. Then he starts talking about being depressed and sick in his hotel room all weekend. This at that point, Johnny Gargano comes out, calls The Miz a liar, says that he was in Cabo with Maurice, because Maurice posted pictures on Instagram, even though The Miz questioned that. Like, how do you know? Which was smart, because they added some layers to it. Miz basically said that Johnny Gargano was trying to use him to get over, which for the first time ever, an actual organic Johnny Wrestling chant broke out. And I was just kind of like, oh, so The Miz is right all of a sudden. Then he says that he was sorry. He's genuinely sorry, and he wants to move on. That he needs to go off and be a role model to his children. He's so full of shit. Johnny Gargano, of course, kept calling them out. And then said that he talked to the higher-ups because they were very disappointed in The Miz and all this video evidence that they got. And the match is going to be in 2 weeks. The Miz versus Dexter Lumis. And if Dexter Lumis wins, he gets his WWE contract plus the money that The Miz owns him. The Miz said that he's not going to get that contract. He's not going to get any money. He's going to kick Dexter Lumis' head in. It's going to be awesome. At that point, Dexter Lumis tried to put his paws on The Miz, and The Miz scampered away. You know, I genuinely like The Miz. I do. He is a great villain. You know, he's excellent. And if they had done something to sort of set this up, it would have been a decent story. Because what The Miz says actually makes sense. You know, he is an unappreciated piece of the business. And we talk on this channel a lot about why The Miz is so unappreciated. You know, so if he would have said that these people don't appreciate me, you'll appreciate me if something bad happens. If I got hurt or if I had to retire, you guys would appreciate me. And then all of a sudden, Dexter Lumis starts attacking The Miz. That would kind of prove his point. But because this stuff is kind of like retroactively trying to make sense of stuff that they've already been doing, it may fall flat on some people. That's the thing about telling stories. You have to introduce some of the elements before you introduce some of the action, you know, because there's no guarantee that by the time you get to explaining everything that people are actually going to care. So you have to be able to, because it seemed random, right? Like the whole Miz is the only one who sees Dexter Lumis, and then the interactions between the two of them got a little bit more targeted. But it all came across as being very random. But if you set it up before that by having the Miz sort of complain that he's not as appreciated as other people, that would be different. But I actually understood his reasoning. He just wanted people to like him. He wanted people to feel bad for him, to care about him. And but it's a little late. Johnny Gargano is what he is on the microphone. He's just kind of present. He's just kind of there. Not necessarily the most awful promo of all time, but certainly not the best, and certainly just kind of serviceable. So it was a fine segment. I like The Miz. I genuinely like The Miz. He really takes what he does seriously, even when he's doing comedy shit, which is this is. But that The Miz is the kind of character who would do something like this. The Miz made a deal with MVP to get the title, but even though he knew that was going to mean he's going to have to fight Lashley eventually, but he didn't care. He's wanted to be champion again. He didn't give a shit. So this was well within The Miz's character to pull a Jussie Smollett just to get some sympathy from people who hate him already. Now they hate him even more, which is great. The only problem with this, I think, is that people were kind of burned out on the story because they started explaining it a little too late. They took a little too long to get into the story elements of it. And then, of course, Dexter Lumis can't talk, so now Johnny Gargano has to do the talking for him. I'm guessing he's going to also negotiate his contract for him too, because apparently, maybe he can read. But apparently Johnny Gargano is going to be the voice of Dexter Lumis, which is fine, I guess. So this Monday Night Raw felt all of 3 hours. I legitimately was like, oh my God. Every match felt like it was 35 minutes. Even the ones that were really long really killed me. I was like, man, these matches are dragging. Triple H is doing a little bit better in terms of not so many rematches, but I'm genuinely not really seeing too many characters are in better positions now. Austin Theory included, Riddle included, and here's another thing that I thought was very weird. And it didn't really occur to me until I was watching the show that people were very excited to get rid of gimmick pay-per-views. They was like, yes, now these pay-per-views are going to be organic and they're going to build organically. And I was like, wait a minute. This War Games thing didn't build organically. It didn't. We kind of knew the War Games match was going to happen. They announced it on Twitter. Then all of a sudden it became, who's going to team with this guy? Who's going to team with this guy? It's like there's 6 factions in the company, but we knew the Bloodline was going to be in one of them because they're the top act in the company. And we knew Damage Control was going to be in one of them because they were at the time all over Monday Night Raw. Raw did improve when there was not as much Damage Control. But to say that they got rid of gimmick pay-per-views when War Games was literally a gimmick pay-per-view, again, people just want to believe. It's one of those things where, if you believe it, does it really matter what other people think? It doesn't matter what the truth is. Only what matters what you believe. So Triple H has got a lot of people mystified into thinking that he fully explained he's changed and improved Austin Theory because he's mean now. He grumbles in front of the television and says, I'm not a kid. I guess he's going to put on his Batman voice. But I'm expected to believe that, Charlie, who went through all the effort of getting this golden ticket, all of a sudden didn't want it anymore. I'm just supposed to believe that because he said it. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I mean, it's like, would you watch that movie? Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where Charlie is obsessed with going to the chocolate factory. So he goes and he gets this chocolate. He hears about it. He got to have the chocolate. And he finally finds the golden ticket and decides, you know what? I ain't going. I ain't going to the chocolate factory. I got this golden ticket, but I ain't going. The movie be approximately 20 minutes and you feel gypped. You think it was stupid. But then Charlie comes out and says, hey, you know what? It was better for me not to go to the chocolate factory. Look at what happened to that other girl. She got turned into a blueberry. Look at what happened to that other kid. He fell in, he fell into a lake. This has all these bad kids. Something bad would have happened to me in the chocolate factory. So I'm glad I didn't go, even though I found a golden ticket like everybody else. Literally makes no sense. It's dumb. You would not write that story. You wouldn't do that story for any other character. It's still befuddling to me that people are okay with this. But I'm talking about wrestling fans, man. Come on. The Miz stuff is fun though. Even though, again, intricate storytelling, complex storytelling, sometimes it doesn't really work in wrestling because it's people miss it. Which is what people are trying to say to me about the Austin Theory storyline. There's deeper stuff going on here. Like, yeah, I'm sure there is. Like him having less personality, like him, just being sort of a generic heel who comes out mean mugging and now he's viciously attacking. I'm like, he could have done all that shit with the briefcase. He could have. Like I said, I'm not going to relitigate that. It's just going to be one of those things where, much like Bray Wyatt losing to Goldberg, where it's going to be one of those things that people are going to constantly talk about. And I was on the side that Bray Wyatt didn't need the Universal title anyway, and that him losing to Goldberg was more transitional because it was all about putting some heat and some interest behind Goldberg so that Goldberg could wrestle Roman. Because that was the plan. The plan was for Goldberg to wrestle Roman. We obviously got away from that, and the Fiend just took a loss for no reason. But that wasn't nobody's fault. That was COVID, right? So it was what it was in that regard. But this is going to be along those lines. It's going to be one of those things where there's going to be certain people who are going to be like, oh, the Fiend died, and there's nothing you could do because he got beat by Goldberg, which, Goldberg beats pretty much most people anyway. But all of a sudden him beating the Fiend was the death of the Fiend. Even though you could see a million miles away where that thing was going, because basically you were told in like January where they were going with Goldberg versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania that year. So, but in this instance, people are just saying, you got to be patient. Basically, trust the process, bro. And I'm like, okay, I keep saying it. He got till WrestleMania to make things right, but I'm looking at it from week to week, and it's not looking very good. It ain't looking good. Like Bianca Belair lost the last match she was in. Riddle lost the last match he was in. He went from main eventing pay-per-views to losing to Chad Gable. Is that character development? I don't think so. So, I mean, that's up to you. You have eyes and ears. Is Riddle better off now than he was 2 months ago? This is still Triple H booking it. 2 months ago, it looked like somebody was actually cared about Riddle and that things were actually going to change for Riddle. Now he's in a worse position. Actively worse. Is Elias in a better position than he was, before Vince left? Kind of not really. I mean, Ezekiel still got a lot of TV time. It was kind of goofy, but people were behind it. And now people don't care about Elias. This is kind of like sitting on their hands with Elias, as even mentioned. Are we better off with week after week just of Alpha Academy and random stuff? I don't think so. Are we better off with Damage Control doing random stuff? I don't think so. Are we better off with a 24/7 title? Yes. Yes, we are. We're better off with a 24/7 title. But, Raw is tough. Raw is a tough one to sit through because Lashley isn't in the best position. They're trying to turn him back heel, but he was such an incredibly over babyface, and he was having a good run as a babyface and a babyface United States champion. And they decided to cut the legs off from underneath him. Yes, he got to wrestle Brock Lesnar again, which was great. Clearly, they're going to wrestle a third match, maybe at WrestleMania, maybe at the Royal Rumble or something like that. That could be fun. But they turned Seth Rollins babyface, which they didn't really need to do because the crowd was just turning him babyface anyway. They're just going to let the crowd feed into what he's doing. But who is legitimately better off now that Triple H is in power? I think Judgment Day probably is. That's a good one. Dominic Mysterio maybe, because who knows? Vince probably would have jobbed him out 100 times over by now. He probably would have had Ray beat him in the middle of a ring on Raw or something, or like a live event or some shit. So maybe Dominic and Rhea are better off Judgment Day. But I can't think of too many other people who are actually better off now than when Vince was there. So to me, doesn't make much sense. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.